Your Daily 180, 180 seconds of pure Bible study.
Okay, today we're going to continue with our big picture view of the prologue, and then starting tomorrow we're going to start a slog through there and look at some important details in the prologue. Today we're continuing with the big picture view, and I'm kind of using an outline of some ideas for the big picture view that I got from Homer Haley. Let's look at verses 14 through 18. Very important stuff here. Verse 14, and the Word. Remember, we read about the Word in verse 14. We're going to talk in verse number 1. We're going to read some more about this tomorrow. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of Him and cried out, saying, This was He of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for He was before me. And of His fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, He has declared Him. And so in these verses, the first thing we see is the Word. This is Jesus. Back in verse 1, you might be wondering, who is the Word? It's Jesus. And we'll talk some more about that tomorrow. Became a man, took on flesh, took on all the characteristics of man. Now this is a little tough for us to understand, and we'll talk some more about this tomorrow. But Jesus is 100% God and 100% man. Now we don't know how that happens, that you can have this God-man, but He wasn't a little bit of God and a little bit of man. He was 100% of both, and He became a man. We also see in this text that John the Baptist testified of the eternality of Jesus. And then we're going to see that grace is fully realized through Jesus. There was grace in the Old Testament. There was truth in the Old Testament. And there's grace today, and there's truth today. And then ultimately, Jesus explains the Father. If you really want to know what God the Father is like, you've really got to spend time with Jesus. There's a beautiful statement that we're going to be looking at in the months to come from John chapter 8, verse number 31. Jesus said, if you abide in my word, you're my disciples indeed. And then He'll go on to say that phrase that we're so familiar with, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But He says, if you want to be His disciple, you need to live in His word. And you've got to live in His word because you've got to know Him. And the only way to know Him is to spend time with Him. Join us again tomorrow.